Glyphosate is that one that's in Roundup, and it's going to be in conventional food if it's sprayed. So why? This is my son's T-shirt. Why does it say "keep away from fire" on his T-shirt?
That's much harder than it. It's got flame retardants.
Because it doesn't have fire retardants. So they have to put a sign warning me not to put my son with his T-shirt on near a fire, or else he'll go on fire, right? So this is stuff that these clothes companies, this is from Zara, I believe, have been told by law to put on because flame retardants are the default. Okay. Moving on to talk a little bit about what is chemical synergy. So we've looked at the specific chemicals. Now what happens when we combine all these things? 1 + 1 + 1 does not equal 3 when we combine these things. It actually equals a lot more than that. And I'm going to show you an example. So just like we're not too sure what happens when we use polypharmacy with people, right? We know what one drug does, we know what the side effects, they've done the clinical trials. They haven't done any clinical trials on combining 2 drugs, 3 drugs, 4 drugs, 5 drugs. It's all speculation based on what the mechanism of that drug is and doing a little bit of this, right? It's the same with chemicals. So chemicals have this synergistic effect, and I'll show you an example that was described in this paper here, looking at smoking and asbestos exposure. So I think we all know that smoking's not so good for the lungs, asbestos not so good for the lungs either. When we have a smoker, we have a 10 times increased risk of lung cancer. When we have someone who's exposed to asbestos, we have a 5 times increased risk of lung cancer.
Is that smoking with weed too?
With weed,
That example?
this is like regular cigarettes.
Cigarette.
Yeah.
But it should also affect cancer, I assume, no?
Pardon me?
It should also affect cancer eventually, I assume, no?
Sorry.
It will eventually affect lungs, I assume, if he was smoking weed.
Weed, like marijuana?
Yeah.
Well, whenever we inhale anything combustible, it's carcinogenic. Whether it's weed, tobacco, from a fire, from a barbecue, anything. Yeah. Yeah, cigars, anything that's combustible. The increased risk of lung cancer if you're exposed to both of these is 55 times. So it multiplies, it doesn't add. Okay? So there's a lot we don't know about toxins. Chronic low-level toxicity is occurring in all of us at some level. The effects of toxicants are not linear, as we just saw. They're multiplied. Chemical sensitivities depend on the species. We're all humans, so there's some variability there, but different animals react different ways. The life stage, so baby's skin is about 4 times more absorbable than us. So if we put a cream on our skin, we're going to absorb 4 times less of it than a baby that gets exposed to that cream. Like sunscreens, for example, that are toxic. We have to think about those. Biochemical individuality, some of us can detox certain things faster than others. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more. And toxin synergy, as we were just looking at. So disease risk is governed by these few factors. How toxic is the actual product, times the cumulative exposure, times susceptibility. So those are the 3 areas. How dangerous is that toxin? How much are you being exposed to? And what's your genetic makeup? Okay. So we all have a body burden, a total toxic load. Over long periods of time, small daily doses of multiple contaminants have cumulative detrimental effects on physiological pathways that can eventually impair and cause damage. So I often use the analogy of the barrel effect with my clients, that we all have a barrel, it's all a different size, and we fill up that barrel, and once it starts to spill over, that's when we experience symptoms. And we can drain the barrel. So there's a few known effects when it comes to toxins. There's a lot of unknowns. The gene-environment interaction, what all of them are doing, the billions of mixtures, latency of effects, and windows of vulnerability. So the model that we have currently, when it comes to the toxic world, is an innocent until proven guilty model, right? Which we use with humans, which is actually a pretty nice way to go about it, okay? They didn't do the crime until we prove it. But it doesn't really work with toxins, right? We're kind of doing this innocent until proven guilty until it's too late, and then we're like, oops, all these people got injured, now we got to investigate a little bit further and then take it off the market. And this was first really sort of brought to the masses with Rachel Carson's book, Silent Spring. She helped with DDT getting banned because she saw what it was doing to aquatic life. This is in the 1940s and 1950s. She wrote this book, came out in the 1960s, and then in the 70s, DDT was banned, and it's still in our environment today. Okay, it's time for the good news. You guys freaked out? Yeah.
What was DDT used for?
It's a pesticide. Yeah, it was like sprayed. You can see the pictures, you know, like from trucks and whatnot. It was like vapor, like a liquid vapor. Okay. So how can we thrive in a toxic world? This is where it gets, you know, action steps. So if we want to thrive, if health is the goal, we have to move what's coming into our body through our different organ systems and out of our body. Okay? We're like little factories, right? We're factories for the chemicals that are in our environment. And to make it work the best, we want to try to decrease what's coming in, and we want to try to increase what's going out, and then we can end up being in pretty good shape. Now, what I tell my clients is if you're not detoxing daily, you're retoxing daily. Because by default, we're in this toxic environment, and we have to be proactive in this category. Mm-hmm. Now, Jeffrey Bland said in his book, Disease Delusion, really great read, a genetic difference in drug detoxification between one person and another can be as much as 1,000-fold. So I have clients sometimes who are very sensitive to mold. They have all these health issues. We do a little bit of a history. I discover there's mold in their home. And no one else in their home is getting affected by the mold. Why is that so? That's because we all have different capacities to detoxify. It's not that the other people are not being exposed, it's that they're processing it much faster. And here's a really great example. There was a chemical plant in Turin, Italy, and they had a leak. And all of their workers got exposed to this chemical. Some of them got bladder cancer and some of them didn't. So they did a case study and wanted to figure out why some of them did and some of them didn't. And what they found was that those who got bladder cancer had a decreased detoxification pathway that dealt with that toxin. And the specific pathway is called acetylation. The ones that didn't get cancer had an increased activity of that process called acetylation. And they were able to deal with that toxin a lot quicker. So we do have some genetic influence as to how this is going to happen, but as you're going to see too, it's inducible, it's changeable, we can upregulate it, we can improve it. So these are what I call the 5 channels of elimination. If stuff's coming into the body, and not just stuff coming in, we actually make toxins in our own body, just regular byproducts from metabolism, right? We have to get rid of it somehow. How do we get rid of it? Through the 5 channels of elimination, from the ways we can get something from inside of the body to the outside of the body. We've got the kidneys, skin, lungs, bowel, and the mind, which everyone forgets about. So we're going to go through each one of these and talk about some strategies to really upregulate and improve them. So the kidneys, they're like the liquidation organ. They deal with 180 liters of blood every 24 hours. They're filtering that blood on a regular basis, trying to get out all the water-soluble toxins. They're taking out hormones, they're taking out neurotransmitters, vitamins, xenobiotics, drugs. They take out lots of different things, which actually makes urine a really nice thing to sample, to look at some of these things when we're doing testing. And a really great way to keep the kidneys healthy is to consume 2 to 3 liters of water a day, clean water. If we don't use a filter, we become the filter. right? So I always get asked what type of water should people be drinking. For city living, one of the best is reverse osmosis because it takes out everything. If you're in the country or have access to it, spring water is amazing because it gets filtered through the ground, then comes up, grabs some minerals, and then you have nice mineralized water. Well water could be good too if you're sort of in a secluded area. There's something called Berkey. I have this in my clinic, which is just a 2-stage vessel that sits on the table. You pour the water in the top, filters, goes through the bottom. So we need some sort of water filter. When we drink water, it's in our blood within 20 minutes at the most. So we need to have good, clean water to drink. And that's, a fundamental, right? I talk to my clients about fundamentals, like what are the base things you need to do before we start to do all the other fancy stuff. Skin, which is sometimes called the third kidney. So we release about 1 to 2 pounds of toxins through the skin every day. We get rid of a lot of fat-soluble toxins. And the skin is bidirectional, right? So we can get rid of stuff, which is great as a detoxification organ, but we can also absorb stuff, right? Nicotine patch. Throw a patch on, you absorb nicotine at a slow pace every day. Helps you curb cravings. Hormone creams, right? Goes right through the skin. Anyone taking Epsom salt bath? Yeah, getting magnesium in through the skin. So we want to avoid toxic skin products. We want to avoid synthetic materials as well. Now, a lot of you are not going to like what I'm about to say, but yoga clothes, synthetic materials, right? That's all made out of plastic. And it's sitting right against your skin. So we do what we can. What can we do for the skin? Daily skin brushing. This is a dry skin brush. You can get it in any health food store. It's about $5 to $10. Lasts your entire life. Exfoliates the skin, gets rid of the toxins. You do it before you go into the shower, and it also helps to move the lymph through your body. Really good thing for the skin. Probably one of the best things for the skin, and actually one of the most researched and scientifically backed form of detoxification, because there's a lot of weird stuff out there for detox. Believe me, I've seen it all. Is saunas. Sweating it out. When we go in the sauna, we eliminate chemical solvents, heavy metals, pesticides, PCBs, and lots more.
How long in the sauna?
How long in the sauna? As long as you can handle.
Dry steam?
How often?
Well, I have an infrared sauna at home. About maybe 6 years ago or something, I had a friend who was going to get married, and they were going to have an all-inclusive in Mexico, and being at an all-inclusive in Mexico is one of my worst nightmares. So instead of my wife and I going down for the wedding, we bought an infrared sauna, and we use it all the time. Best investment of my life. So an infrared sauna, if you've ever been in one, it takes a while to heat up and really get the sweat going. So I can last in there about an hour, and then I'm done. Like, that's done. If I preheat it, I can last maybe 40 minutes, 50 minutes. But then the gym I used to be a member of had like a dry sauna, which is always hot. I could last like 20 minutes in there, right? So the key thing is you just want to get a good sweat on, right? You kind of reach a point where you can't handle it. And if you get out and you don't feel very well, or you don't recover well, or you feel bad the next day, you've overdone it. So I say start slow and then work your way up.
But it could be dependent on a person. Like I think my skin is very dry. The dry, I don't know, I don't do well. The steam in my eyes feels like they're moisture. I don't know. There's something about the steam that it makes me feel better. Steam sauna then, or I call it steam sauna, but maybe steam room versus the dry sauna. So it's not the same?
Yeah. I mean, you just have to try different ones, see what works for you. The important thing is the
Sweat, basically.
So even like a hot yoga class, that's going to get you to sweat. Like, you're drenched after one of those. That's where it's at, because the toxins are actually in the sweat. We have bromide, chloride, chromium, copper, iron, potassium, so some essential minerals have actually been found in the sweat. I'm going to show you that in a moment. Urea is found in the sweat. That's why older people that aren't really detoxing well can kind of smell a little bit funky, because their kidneys aren't working so well. It's coming out in their sweat. Antimony, cadmium, lead, mercury, nickel have been found in our sweat. Certain drugs, they've used sweating for drug detoxification, and PCBs as well. So cadmium is actually sweating